Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you so much for this opportunity as ours to be able to gather here tonight and to study your word. And we pray that as we go through this class, that we'll be strengthened in the faith and understand better how you have dealt with your people in the past, and realize that the things you've done in the past, that it shows what we can expect from you as a God in the future and in our lives today. And the things, how you took care of things in the past, you take care of things today. And we thank you so much for that. We pray that as we go through this class, we'll be stronger in the faith and drawn closer to you and each other, and that we will use this in our everyday lives, and we can teach somebody else. And all this we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we're going to try and do the questions. So if anybody wants to go over what I know some people run around in Alabama, they didn't get to hear this thing, so that's their loss, I'm sorry. No repeats. Well, I will. We found something online for those that weren't here, and did a little research, and it's about Esther, and this is from a woman, and she's also Jewish. And I said, well, there's a point of view we haven't considered. How do women feel, how do the Jewish women feel? And she carried a lot of, I think she carried a lot of feelings. Now, she didn't care, I don't think she cared for Xerxes at all, really and truly. She just, but anyway, she gave a point of view about how Esther was exiled. You know, there was other people exiled also, but she was exiled from her family, from her homeland, and that she was also, she was orphaned. She had lost her mother and father, and Kevin's touched on this earlier before we got into it Sunday, and also that she was basically, in the way this lady, her name is Rachel Friedlander, she was kidnapped. It's talking about Esther was kidnapped. Well, that's not even counting the exile. This was when Ahasuerus, the king, decided to get all the virgins of the land, and we're going to have a beauty pageant, and we're going to find the new queen. And she said she was kidnapped. That was her opinion. And after you start looking at the scriptures, yes, I think she's got a point there. All the unmarried virgin girls of the land, all the pretty ones, I guess, but okay, I won't argue that. They were all gathered up and brought to the capital, Susa, and put in a harem. We discussed what that is. And then they were giving 12 months, and it dawned on me the week that Kevin had the class that how pretty can they be if it took them 12 months to scrub up and get ready to meet the king. But that was, I think it was a little more than that. It was more or less teaching them how to act in front of a king. You can imagine me in front of the Queen of England. There'd probably be another war started somewhere real quick, but yes, I wouldn't, they couldn't teach me in 12 months how to act. I'm sorry. But these girls are taught how to act, how to be a proper person, I reckon, in 12 months. They're given cosmetics, they name cosmetics, so they're being beautified. Connie owns a beauty shop. She does this every week. She makes women walks in, they walk out beautiful. My wife has done it on several occasions. So, made some points here, didn't I? Yes. So yes, this is what they're doing for 12 months. And then the thing is, though, after 12 months, I don't guess they all come in at one time. It's your turn to go see the king. And this is where Rachel, the girl that wrote this, the woman, she had a problem with this. Said, there were 5 things about Esther that you don't want to talk about. And the 4th thing she mentioned was she was raped. Basically, you're going to see the king tonight. You go to see the king tonight, and you come back in the morning. And the thing that she brought out, and it's in the scriptures, we read it Sunday. The fact is, you're in the harem of the virgins. When you leave to go see the king, when you come back, you don't go to the harem of the virgins. You go over here to the concubines. Things changed. I don't think we have to paint a real good picture to figure things out. And she made she brought out that he basically test drove all the models before making his purchase, and he purchased Esther to replace his former queen. Basically, that's, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. This is a harem. This is the way King Solomon worked the same way. I mean, yes, he had, he said 700 wives and 300 concubines. And if you didn't like you didn't see him again forever. I'm sorry. And I think that's what Queen Vashti, you're not coming back. You're going over there to the other room, the concubines. You're never coming back. You're not divorced. You're just in no man's land. You're not married. You're not divorced. You can't see anybody. Your life is on hold the rest of your life and he had that proclamation made about her. Because that's what got me started about the whole thing on this study is Esther, the book of Esther, condoning divorce? Because I thought, well, it sounded like he divorced his queen and got him another one. But it's not. It's a harem. It's a group of concubines. She's the main one, the queen, his favorite until she wasn't. Now she's not. She's out. She's back in the concubines in the group, and you're never coming back. And Esther is now the queen. So it really wasn't a marriage at all. It was just what shall I put? How shall I put it? It was an organization, an arrangement. That's basically what it was. And the girl that wrote this, she had a lot of heartburn with that. I can't blame her. In fact, they just said, get up and go. You don't have a choice of what happens. If you don't get up and go, you probably dead. So they said what she said, the 4 things she said was she was raped. Yes, sir.
But all of what you said, I think, is true, but there is a certain part of that where Esther did her best to please the king or to be in that position, because,
well,
you know what I mean? Like,
think about what the repercussions are. If you don't please the king, you're not going back home. You're back in the concubines, and you're never getting out of there. Now, you either do your best and please the king, and you become the queen, now you've got a life, or you go back and you're one of the concubines, and you're never getting out of that, and you don't have a life. So I don't see where she had a bad choice and a worse choice. So yes, that was, and she also risked execution. Okay? You come before the king without being invited, you're out of here. You're toast, if that's what he wants. So that was one of the things the 5 things that she brought up, the fact that she was exiled, she lost her family, she was kidnapped, she was raped, and then she risked execution. And Greg brought it out, and I guess I skirted around. Didn't really realize I presented it in that way, but he said Greg brought it out, the fact that it kind of points towards the life of Christ. Leaving heaven, giving everything up, facing humans, being tormented and persecuted and crucified by humans, and then, in the end, saving us. Same thing she did with her people. And Greg said it before, and it kind of fits everywhere you look. If it's weird, it points to Christ in the Old Testament. And so that was where we presented in a nutshell. I could have done it shorter Sunday, couldn't I? So anyway, any other, sir?
There's another area that we could look in Christ too. Not that Haman was perfect by any means, because he wasn't. He was the opposite of that. But he was the one that was hung up on the stake, on the gallows.
Yeah.
And he wasn't originally the one that should have been there, and he took the place of him.
We're the ones that should have been there, and Christ took our place. Yeah. There's a lot of similarities in things when you start thinking about it. It starts fitting together that Esther is a whole lot deeper. And I've told people Sunday, I walked away from this class after I finished with a lot different, deeper understanding and admiration of Esther, the things she went through. I always read it was like a fairy to Snow White and Prince Charming. Okay, get married, I'm the queen now and all that. No, this was a rough thing to be put through, and then have to go and say, we're gonna have a banquet at my house, and I'm inviting the king, which is over my life. You know, I'm like a bug on a string. He's got control of me, and I have no choice in what I can do, but I'm still inviting him into my house and having a banquet for him to save my people. That's a hard thing to swallow. Just, you know, let it go and forget what's happened and go forward and be what you need to be to save your people. So, you know, that's kind of like Christ being in the fake trial that he went through, being beaten and being slapped and being, you know, spit on and being ridiculed and everything, and then crucified. You know, you got to forget all that's behind you and just do what you've got to do. You know, so any more comments before we go into the questions? Okay, page 119, we have the questions here about the whole chapter, not just Esther. And the first one is the gallows. What is the gallows?
J, an instrument of death constructed by Haman.
Yes, and I think it was a good thing you brought it out 2 weeks ago about the gallows. Wasn't a piece, more than likely not a piece of rope and a neck stretcher like we always think of in the old westerns. It was probably a 75-foot stake in the air, and they impaled him on it, and he stuck up there for everybody to see. That was the Persian way. I saw the pictures online myself. Yes, that was the way they did it. There was no rope. We think of a gallows or hanging, and he was hung, but that wasn't what they had in mind when they hung somebody. So it'd be a whole lot simpler to build something straight, because it's long. I don't know how you get him up there though. I think Vicky, how do you get him up there? I don't know. Maybe it had a pivot point on the bottom and pick it up with him on there. I don't know. He was on there though, and that's just, you know, that's a bad way to be crucified or killed. I guess it wouldn't be crucified, but it's also, if it's so tall, everybody in town can see it. That was the idea that he did for Mordecai. Yes, that was the whole thing. I want to humiliate you when I kill you. How bad can it be? Yes. And there was people in history who had done the same thing. The Romans, they crucified. There was people that invaded Vlad the Impaler. Did he invade England, or was it some other country? I think it was England. I think. Anyway, they called him Vlad the Impaler, because he would go and get the dead soldiers and stick them on sticks, so that the invading country had to walk through their own people, and that was it. It was all mind games. That's all it was. Just, you know, you see all these soldiers that you used to fight with, and they're stuck on stakes, and you walk through the woods, and it plays mental games with you. That's what that guy did. So it's not something new. So,
Well, it said that Haman's sons were killed, and then a few verses later that
they were
Israel
hung.
wanted them to be hung on
Yeah.
gallows also. So they were already dead, so that wasn't a way of killing them per se. But,
True.
you know,
But it could be used to kill somebody.
Yeah, impale them
Yeah,
and then.
but it was more or less show and tell. That's all it was. You know, look what did David do with Goliath's head?
Yeah, brought it back.
Brought it back and put it in what we think of the place of the skull. You're thinking, so yeah, there's your enemy. There you are. So it's all propaganda, I guess, the best way to put it. You know, if you want to go against me, this is what the last guy did. You know, you want to ridicule me in front of people, I'm gonna put you on a stake up there, and everybody's gonna see it. It's just, but yes. Number 2, Esther. What is Esther? D. A Jewish woman who succeeded Vashti, the queen of Persia. You know, I think about Vashti a lot. I don't know if she got good deal or the bad deal, because once she's put back in the group of women, you no longer have a life. You have no husband. You're just existing. It's kind of like being in solitary confinement in a way. You just have nothing. This is it. But that's the way he did things, and it was a man's world in those days. I mean, I'm sorry, it was ugly. It was an ugly man's world because women had no rights, and if they expressed anything, they were gone. Even in Jesus' time, the Romans, the Jews, they still didn't respect women as much as we do today. And Jesus brought that out too. It was, I think, the women started getting more respect after Jesus because it was brothers and sisters. You know, it's just a different mindset. But before that, it was terrible. Women had, just look at, was it Ruth? She had to come back and she had no kinfolks at home. She come back with her mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law had nobody living there. They had no kinfolks. She had property she couldn't even get on. Things like that, because it was against a woman. It was just everything loaded up against a woman back in those days. And here is Esther and Vashti. I mean, Vashti, he says, "Come in here, we want to look at you a while." And she said, "No, not going to happen." That was it right there, game breaker. And I can see why the men in that time would say, "Oh, we can't have this happening." Pretty soon all the women are telling us what they're going to do. And they couldn't handle that. So yes, it's a lot better today, to be an understatement. Do we have it perfectly down today? I mean, the world in basically the world out there, has it guided the women's right? I think sometimes it might swing too far one way, too far the other way. You know, but yes, they had no rights in those days.
Randall, can I, on another note, and this is really a splitting hair thing with me, but I have to say it. The book continues, like in this last answer, who Esther is, that she succeeded Vashti as queen of Persia. And just in case there's anybody curious about how come is it Persia or is it Medo-Persia? Like, I think it's Esther chapter 1 verse 9. It says the Medes and the Persians.
Okay.
So the history books, non-biblical history books, just call it Medo-Persian. The Persians defeated the Medes of Media first, and then from then on it was called the Medo-Persian Empire. So we can still say Persia, Queen of Persia, that's fine, but I just want everybody, if anybody's wondering, well, when was the Medo-Persian Empire? It was at this time. Because Persia was the dominant of the Medo-Persians, it's just faster to say the Persians, the Persian Empire. But if you go to look it up in the history books, wait a minute, there is no Persian Empire. It was the Medo-Persian Empire. And again, that's me splitting hairs, and sometimes I make a bigger deal out of something. But I just didn't want anybody wondering, when was this in history? It was the Medo-Persian Empire. And in the Bible, it just says the Medes and the Persians.
Okay.
Doesn't it say that on page 117, World Empire?
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, down there in the illustration, Medo-Persian. That's right. Which to me, it's confusing because it says it right there, Medo-Persian, but then in all the questions just says Persian.
Well.
So just so everybody's on the same page, figuratively speaking,
Yes.
the Medo-Persian is the Persian.
Yes. Same group, different day.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is Nehemiah? Yes, ma'am.
Cupbearer of the king of Persia, who would later serve as the governor of Jerusalem. That is K.
Okay, that's what I got. The cupbearer of the king of Persia, Medo-Persia too. He did both of them. Okay. Messiah.
term for Christ.
Sir?
Term for Christ.
Another term for Christ, yes, another name.
So,
Hebrew
so
term.
Messiah is the Hebrew word for Christ.
And Christ is the Greek word.
Thank you. Yep, very good.
Can you imagine living back then? You had to know Aramaic, you had to know Latin, you had to know Greek. Is there something else we need to know? I don't know.
Yeah, Hebrew.
Hebrew, okay, yeah, that's just like, and they could be talking to you either way. I can't even get Spanish in my head. You know? And
It was a different culture from the time you were young. Not everybody would do it, but yeah, you could focus on things that we don't focus on anymore. We focus on other things, probably things we shouldn't focus on these days.
yeah,
Back then, you were bored all the time, so you would learn some things.
bored all the time. Okay, I had a guy on the roof 2 days ago. He shows up, he talks to my phone.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm so-and-so. Okay, I'm talking to, yeah, okay, we can
Right.
do this.
Right.
He had a translator on his phone. I thought, yeah.
Huh.
So it didn't help me a bit. I couldn't hardly hear the phone. But yeah, you imagine having 4 different languages. What did they do on the cross of Christ? What was it in the 3 languages, wasn't it? What did they put over the cross? What languages did they write?
The Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek,
What?
Latin.
Latin. The Romans were Latin, and then the Aramaic, and then the Greek. The Greek was the learned people. Yeah, because the old saying, the Greeks have a word for it. Yeah, they had a word for everything. So, yes. So yes, that was the same situation. That's why we have different languages when they translate the scrolls from the originals way back when. Yeah, it's just a whole lot of different languages. So you have to know what you're talking. You have to know what you're reading to be able to translate it. Just yes. So Messiah and Christ are the same person, 2 different languages. Who is Cyrus?
El, the ruler who allowed citizens of numerous conquered nations to return to their homeland, including Israel.
Yes.
Or-
Now the amazing part is, I don't think we covered it in this chapter here. The amazing part is that Isaiah called Cyrus by name. He was going to rebuild. God said, he told Isaiah, you write it down. He's going to rebuild my temple. It will be done. And it was how many years? 400 years? 200?
It was about 200 years.
200 years before Cyrus is even born.
Yep.
That's like Paul saying George Washington's going to start a country over here on the other side of the globe, and he's going to do it with 13 colonies, and he's going to do it in such and such year. I didn't get caught on that one, did I? And it comes true. That's about as stretching as you can get. The man he prophesies 200 years before Cyrus the king comes and does exactly what he said. It's just, I mean, how do the people that don't believe in God, how do you deal with something like that? This is a writing of Isaiah, which is accepted. I mean, it's this known prophet, and the stuff he prophesied, and then you've got this guy that's 200 years later in his book that he wrote about, and it's named specifically and told what he's going to do. How do you get around that and say it doesn't? No, God doesn't exist. How do you no? You got to pull some strings to make that one work. Okay, who's Haman?
G, a man who hated a Jew named Mordecai so much that he hatched a plot to kill all the Jews.
Well, how did it go from I hate Mordecai, I'm going to kill all the Jews? How did it get from there?
He hated him so much, he hated everything he stood for and what he was about.
Yep. Hatred will eat you up.
Yep.
Hatred will eat you alive. And I think it did him. He just, I hate the man so much, I want to kill all his people. Persia is probably the kingdom of earth right now. The major, and he's going to go through the whole kingdom and kill all the Jews. That would have been pretty much worldwide. You think about it. I mean, we think about how bad the Germans were in the 1940s. This would have been all over the world, the whole kingdom. This is the number one kingdom of the world. And he's going to get rid of all the Jews in that whole kingdom. The Germans would look like just goofballs compared to what this would have, if this had gone through, what he would have been able to do. They're just amateurs compared to what he was fixing to pull off. And all because a man wouldn't bow down to him like he thought he was some kind of a god. And he was not going to bow down to him, and that ate him up. Who's Ezra?
B.
B. Who said that? Okay, B, yes. The high priest of God who came back to Jerusalem after the exile. This is 70 years of exile. How many in here is over 70? One person. Oh, no, Daddy didn't hear me. 2, 3 people. Oh, we got 4 people.
You got an auction going here?
No, I'm just trying to say, Rayford, and? Ooh, I'm not going to look over there. Okay. Well, there may be 10 people in here who's over 70 years old. Think about it. You would have gone into exile when you were born, and now you're just getting ready to go back home. Your whole life. Living somewhere else. You hear talk about God, but where is God? God's back in Jerusalem. Think about that mindset. It's just 70 years without being where you belong. But they made home where they were. And I think that's a fault to them. Because when they got ready to go back, Nehemiah, we're going to go back home. When the king has okayed it, we can go back home. We can rebuild the temple. We can rebuild Jerusalem. I don't think so. I'm pretty comfortable here. I got a business, I got a family, I got a house. Why should I go back over there? That thing's all tore up. No. That's I got a little heartburn with that bunch there. You know, you're supposed to be God's people. You got a chance to go back and you stay there. Well, I don't know. I'd have to put there myself. If I was there myself, I might pull the same trick. I don't know. But yes, this is Ezra. He was the high priest. You know, you think about being a high priest in another country. He can't even get to the temple to offer sacrifices. That's like, you know, I don't even know how to compare that. How do you get that around in your head to a high priest, but he can't do any high priest stuff because he doesn't have a temple. It's over there in Jerusalem, it's flat. How do you think the high priest would feel about that? That'd be like Greg showing up, nobody's here. He preaches anyway. That's Ezra. You get to go home. You know, I don't want to sound like the one in Wizard of Oz, but there's no place like home, is there? I mean, Kevin was gone how many days? 4 days. You was ready to come home after how many days? 2 or 3. Yes. There's no place like home. I'm sorry. Yes, here is Ezra. He is not at home. He's not able to do the things he wants to do and follow God like he needs to follow God because he's not even there where he needs to be. Now he's got a chance to go. Who's Sanballat? A Samaritan who tried to thwart Nehemiah's plans to rebuild the gates surrounding the city of Jerusalem. If there's somebody on this list you'd like to slap, that'd be Sanballat. I'd like to smack him upside the head. Because he is just picking at him. You know, if a fox jumped up on that thing, it'd fall down. You can't build that. How you going? No. I'm going to go talk to the king and tell him what you're all doing over here. It's just on and on and on. He won't leave him alone. But how did it work out? The walls got built, the gates got hung, and he got embarrassed. Yes. Persia, Medo-Persia.
The empire that defeated the Babylonian Empire.
Yes. Who was over the Babylonian Empire
During this time, or?
when that happened?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar, right. And then Cyrus come in, and that the one where the writing on the wall, you've been measured, you come up short? That's what the writing on the handwriting on the wall that he read.
That was a different emperor. That wasn't Nebuchadnezzar.
That wasn't Nebuchadnezzar.
But that was still Babylon, yeah.
That was Babylon, that was the last,
That was
because
Daniel.
that was,
Was it
what was his
Belteshazzar?
name?
I feel like it's Belteshazzar, I think is his name.
But anyway, Daniel told him, you've been measured up, you come up short. Your kingdom is taken away from you. And that night, Cyrus walks in and takes over. So yes, that was a prophecy of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quick. It wasn't 200 years, it was 20 minutes. Pack your bags, you're leaving. 20 minutes, I don't know how many minutes it was, but it was that night, before the night was over, Cyrus is taken over. And then there was Cyrus, and then there was Artaxerxes. No, he was the last one. Xerxes, and then his son was Artaxerxes. Artaxerxes, yeah. Yeah. And that was the three of them that are in this period of time. So yes, it's an empire that defeated the Babylonians. Were the Babylonians big time?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they were the major players. That makes you think about today, the world that we live in today. Oh, we're in the United States, we can't be touched. You're wrong. The Babylonians probably said the same thing.
Given perspective,
Yes.
the most powerful nation on the face of the earth, the most dominant, was Babylon. Now, of course, lately, when describing the United States, because of our technological power, you'll hear that a lot. We are the most powerful nation in the history of the world. However, not when you're thinking about this, because what I mean by that is, as I do, am grateful that we have such an advantage over all the nations. There's a lot of them with nuclear bombs could wipe us all out. When Babylon was at its height, there was no wiping them out. When Nebuchadnezzar was running the show, God made him the most powerful. There wasn't a yeah but.
It was
So,
definite.
because of the lack of, people talk about Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is so amazing because nobody else around him was hitting anywhere near 60 home
New
runs.
baseball was going to come up.
Yeah, it has to. So when Babylon was ruling, nobody was anywhere near as powerful as Babylon. And the following empires that came after were impressive, but not that impressive. Which is why Babylon is a great example of a byword, the Bible would call it, a phrase that you would use for a nation that is mighty except in the eyes of God.
Yeah, of God. And then God said, Cyrus is coming. It's
Right.
over. So yes, if God's against you, you're toast. I'm sorry. Yes. So Persia was the kingdom that took over Babylon. So that was the end of Babylon. Mordecai. Who was Mordecai?
Esther's cousin.
Esther's cousin. Older cousin, by the way. And he took the place of her parents. He raised her and basically became a father to her. And he was, I think he was really worried about what's going on with her when she's in the palace, and that's 12 months of preparation, because he's there every day at the gate, walking back and forth, wondering what's going on, how's she doing, you know. So yes, that was him. He's also the man that would not bow down to Haman, and started everything right there. Wow, that's one of the questions we've got in the rest of the chapter here. Why wouldn't he bow down to Haman? It's a simple thing. I know he's not a God. I would just bow down to him and get it over with.
He's Jewish.
Hmm?
He's a Jew.
He was a Jew. Haman wasn't a Jew. Mordecai was a Jew. Okay, what's that got to do with it? The only bow you need to God,
Right,
not a man.
there's no other gods before him.
And just not gonna happen, yeah. So that, he had backbone. I'm not gonna do it, no. And do you think he knew what Haman was doing? You think he saw that gallows he's building? Wonder who that's gonna be for? Because you had to see Haman, the fumes coming out of it, just blowing a fuse every time he's close to Mordecai. Mordecai had to know, I think I'm getting under his skin. I don't think he was doing it for that reason. He's doing it because he believes God is supreme. That's the one I bow down to. You know, it's not just to irritate the man. But I think he had to know a little bit about what's going on with Haman. A little bit. About Zerubbabel.
He was H. First governor of Jerusalem after the return from Babylonian exile.
Okay. The first governor of Jerusalem. Yes. And then Artaxerxes, I get that wrong. Yeah.
Persia.
See, the king of Persia provided the Jews with all the provisions they needed to rebuild the city walls of Jerusalem.
Yes, that's like a free ticket. We're going back to Jerusalem, and the king has given us all the logs, the timbers, the protection, the money to buy things. We all got to do is go do it. What else do we need? Like I said, it still irritates me the fact that only 50,000 of the whole group decided to go back. Everybody else stayed where they were. It's just, I wonder if that bunch that stayed back in Susa, the capital, and all the other places, I wonder if they, after the thing is all done and finished, man, I wish I'd gone back. Yeah, I could have gone home. Yeah. That's where they had their inheritance. Each one of the tribes would have had their inheritance in that area. Jerusalem wasn't the main inheritance. That was in one part of the inheritance, but still, that was where the promised land that was given to them by God. And yet, I think I'll stay here. No. That's like being in the wrong today, and somebody said, you're not right. I think I'll stay here. That's the same thing. To me it is. I'm sorry. Somebody shows me where I'm wrong, I'm either going to fix it and move on, or I'll stay where I am. That's what they decided to do, stay where they were. There's got to be a lesson there somewhere. Maybe a preacher ought to find a lesson there some way. Page 120, fill in the blanks. The edict of Cyrus allowed the Jews to return home. Lists 2 reasons why most of them declined the generous offer. I think we just talked about that. 2 reasons why they wouldn't go back home.
Well, number one, everything was in shambles.
Yep.
Everything. It was desolate. Everything was destroyed, burned. The temple was gone. The walls were down, and where were they going to live? And they're like, well, at least I have a house here.
Yep. Well, if you're going to start,
and they weren't being as oppressed as when they were under captivity with the Babylonians. Persians allowed them to worship and allowed a little bit more freedom since Cyrus allowed that. So they were probably like, why do I want to travel 900 miles back home to nothing? And you look how many years it has been,
70.
Yeah, most of them.
Don't even know where I live. I never was there. I was born here. Why would I go? This is home.
Right.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. So yeah, Jerusalem was in ruins. And that first thing, what are you gonna, if you're gonna start a city in those days, what's the first thing you're gonna do? Build a wall. Protection. Sanballat's out there, he's looking for problems, he's trying to cause problems. You gotta build a wall to make protection for the people that live there. They don't even have that. And they had their own lives back in Persia. Yes.
And they would go out there and not have food.
Yeah. Everything's gonna be hard. This is, you're not going there for a holiday and come back home. This is it. You going.
It was dangerous to get there,
Yep.
and dangerous once you got there.
Yes.
And I would also say a lot of them probably got sucked into pagan worship and worldly,
Yep.
since they were, they didn't have a temple to worship, and they didn't have the structure of, the Jewish, teachings and everything like they once did, so a lot of them were comfortable in the world that they were living in.
Yeah. That's like if we boarded up the doors and the windows and come back 70 years from now, some of us aren't going to be here 70 years from now. And the ones that are here have never been here. And what do we come in here for? I've never been in here. What's this thing? What do we do here? If you don't have it when you're growing up, and that's a lesson for everybody in here. If you don't have it when you're growing up, you're likely not going to keep it. It's not going to stick with you. Yes. But yeah, there was people that were born in Persia, and why do they want to come back? I wouldn't even go so far as to say, they might be saying, well, who's this God you're talking about? Who's Yahweh? The Persians have a God right around the corner here on the street. So we go there every fifth day or seventh day or whatever. Yeah. That once you lose it, and it would be very, very hard to keep that religious structure in Persia away from home base, basically. It would be very hard because, like I said, who's the high priest? What's he doing? They can't do hardly anything over there. And now, 70 years later, it's just time will take it away from you. Explain why some of the Jews cried tears of sorrow when the temple was rebuilt and while others rejoiced.
I put, because it wasn't as beautiful as what Solomon built.
Okay. Would that be the ones that rejoiced or the ones that had tears?
Tears.
Okay. Why would some of them rejoice?
Because I'd never seen something, sorry about it.
Because they had a temple again.
And what?
Because they had a full temple again.
Well, I think Tammy's got part of it right. Some of the people saw the original temple, and this isn't nearly as nice as Solomon's temple, and it's just pitiful. But then people never saw what Solomon's temple. This is great, man. This is wonderful. So it's according to where you're at or what viewpoint you have. Yes. Then people walk in here and say, "Man, these pews are nice." And no, you should have seen the ones we had before. These aren't. These are okay. Oh, them others, they were nice. Yeah, you wouldn't know that because you never saw the old ones.
Right.
You just know these are nice. But the same thing. What we saw both of them, right? Is that Kevin? That's a good example. Yes, you don't know what you got if you don't know what you had. Is that correct? That makes sense. It didn't make sense to me. Yes. So some of them were crying because this thing looks crummy. The rocks aren't even straight. The walls are leaning. But that's the best one I've ever seen. Yes, it's all about what you've had in the past. We talk about this building right here. We got cracks in the walls. We got cracks in the back walls back there and all that thing. Oh man, this thing is about to fall down. You should have seen the wooden building we used to be in. You couldn't even walk across the floor. Yeah. This is nice. It's all according to what you've seen and where you've been. Okay, immediately after arriving in Jerusalem, Nehemiah surveyed the damaged walls for 3 nights straight. Why did he do this when it was dark and not during the daylight hours?
It he didn't want to draw attention to what he was planning.
Okay? You hit two of them. He needed to see what kind of damage there was. He needed to make a plan, and then he needed to present the plan. If people saw him, hey, what you looking at? You know, nothing. No, you're looking at something. What are you looking at? You got to explain yourself now. No, I've got a plan, but I can't tell you what the plan is until I know what I'm going to do. I can't see what I'm going to do unless I go around here and look at what's tore up. So yeah, he had to do it secretly, and then he's going to present it to the people. We can do this. Yes. The last one for the night. Why did Mordecai refuse to bow before Haman even when everyone else was?
God is not mentioned by name in this book of Esther, but he's shown through things like this. He was a Jewish man, and he knew better. He knew not to bow to Mordecai.
Yes. You don't bow to a man.
Right.
I mean, so there's a...
Exact same thing with Daniel.
Yep.
Same situation.
Yep. Any other comments or questions? We're going to turn it over. Appreciate the comments and questions that y'all gave. You didn't have to do a portrait, did you?
No. I'd like to share a quick thought before we go home. We're getting ready to go in our book, in our class, the big picture class, into the books of wisdom or the books of poetry, depending on how you want to look at it. And it all starts with a man by the name of Job. And we all know Job because Job was a great example of somebody who would remain faithful to God, though he was a man that obviously had tremendous sufferings that he had to endure. And so when we open up the book of Job, we find out that the Lord allows the enemy to attack him in tremendous ways, betting that Job would curse God. But of course, Job never did. Now, Job is a book of poetry, and there's a reason why it's a book of poetry. There's a reason why it has an effectiveness that is to be reaped even to this day. Though I pray that none of us ever suffer like Job, we can read books like Job and be able to get through what our hard times are. Now, as you know, whenever I give the invitation, I like to talk about this day in history. Well, in this day in history, August 13th, 1961, which might surprise you all, it's when they closed the border in Berlin and began to officially build a wall separating East and West Berlin. If you were on the west side of Berlin, things got to be, they was going to be getting better and better if you know your history. If you were on the east side, that was controlled by the Soviet Union. Not to get political here, but history shows that it was better to be on the west side than the east side. You might say, not to the degree of Job, but definitely they suffered, because when that border closed on August 13th, 1961, they were on the wrong side. And so they suffered until future would come, and hopefully, I won't speak for them, but hopefully things are better for them. But nevertheless, one thing that you can know for sure is that suffering is a part of life for everybody, not just for the people who lived back then in East Berlin, not just for Job, but we too, even to this day. To some degree, interestingly enough, as human beings, we have what we think is a threshold. And everybody has a different threshold, but nevertheless, all of our suffering is real. All of your sufferings are real. God cares very much about your suffering. And so I just wanted to read from Job chapter 3. Job chapter 1 and 2 sets the scene. Job chapter 3 sets the tone. You first hear Job suffer. And so I'm just going to read it to you in the King James language, because this is one of the times where the King James is going to beat the other translations because of our culture and the way it sounds poetic. Just by reading that old-timey King James language, it reads not just a coincidence that it reads like Shakespeare. So I want you to try and hear the suffering that Job is describing. It is intended to be universal. It is intended for you to see yourself in his suffering. Not to say, oh, I'm worse, or I'm suffering as bad as Job. No, it's there. Two reasons why it's written in poetry. One, so that you can understand that other people suffer. Your suffering will be taken and buffered at least a little bit, knowing that someone else suffered, or in Job's case, someone suffering worse than you. Also, it's there because a lot of times when we suffer, we can feel alone. Job, even though his friends came to be with him, they did not understand what Job understood. And that's a lonely feeling. And so it's written to take away our pain. It's written to point to the Christ first and foremost. And it's also there to take away at least a portion of our loneliness. And it goes like this, Job chapter 3. After this opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. And Job spake and said, let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, there is a man-child conceived. Let that day be darkness. Let not God regard it from above, neither let the light shine upon it. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. As for the night, let darkness seize upon it. Let it not be joined unto the days of the year. Let it not come into the number of the months. Lo, let that night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Let them curse it that curse the day, who are ready to raise up their mourning. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. Remember, Job is suffering tremendously, losing everything he had, losing all of his children, and absolutely being in torment. You have to remind yourself of this because you think to yourself, boy, this guy seems to be whining a bit. No, he's not. He's legitimately suffering. And so what he's wishing is that the day that he was born didn't exist. That's how bad he feels. Lo, let the night be solitary. Let no joyful voice come therein. Let them curse it that curse the day, who are ready to raise up their mourning. Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none, neither let it see the dawning of the day, because it shut not up the doors of my mother's womb, nor hid sorrow from mine eyes. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the ghost when I came out of the belly? Why did the knees prevent me, side note, prevent me from falling to my death? Why the breasts that I should suck, or should I be starved to death? Why not? Verse 13, for now should I have lain still and been quiet, I should have slept. Then had I been at rest with kings and counselors of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves, or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver, or as an hidden untimely birth. I had not been as infants which never saw light. This is a long way to go for him to say, I wish I was never born. Why does he go on and on? Or why does the Holy Spirit inspire him to go on and on? He could finish that in 2 sentences. Again, it's to reach out to you no matter what year you were born, no matter what culture you live in. Suffering is part of this life, and it is not part of heaven. There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary be at rest. There the prisoners rest together. They hear not the voice of the oppressor. The small and great are there, and the servant is free from his master. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul, which long for death, but it cometh not, and dig for it more than for hid treasures, which rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave. Why is the light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom God hath hedged in? For my sighing comes before I eat. Or in other words, when I see my meal, I groan because I would rather not have sustenance. My roarings are poured out like waters. Or in other words, why am I drinking water when I'm just going to pour it out of my eyes anyway? For the thing which I greatly feared is come upon me. That which I was afraid of is come unto me. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came to me. We are so grateful that our Lord suffered great suffering for us.